going back to loving me. High and low, hot and cold, I looked everywhere for what I need. But now I know, I'm going back to loving me.
Hello and welcome to SOS. I'm your host, Jennifer Elizabeth Masters, and I am so delighted that you're here. I have a fabulous guest joining me this evening, Karim Hermani, and he was born in Karachi, Pakistan. In his childhood, he lived in an extended family, and it's a very interesting culture that he's going to share with us this evening. His mother was not allowed to talk to Karim's grandfather as a matter of chastity. And it was how women were expected to behave in traditional Eastern culture. His grandfather was a very strong personality, arrogant, controlling, and had a bit of a bad temper. We'll talk about that and how it affected Karim in just a moment. Karim felt hopeless and sometimes powerless around him. His father lacked an authoritative presence, and it was his mother who went the extra mile to make sure that her children were protected from abuse and given the best education possible. And many of Karim's values later in adulthood are the consequence of how his mother raised him. And despite the challenges posed by living in an extended family, he emerged into adult as a discerning and self-aware human being. The horrors of his childhood continued to haunt him long into his adulthood, however, and we'll get into that and how it changed his life in just a moment. And he was put on a spiritual path to confront his karma and achieve a higher consciousness that would help him spotlight all his fears and childhood trauma. Now, he was able to outgrow his inadequacies, and we'll talk about that in a moment, with a karmic partner from past lives. And many of us have had karmic partners, and they can be the most challenging. He was guided to marry this woman and later break up. It was his way of facing karmic inadequacies, and he grew tremendously through this relationship, increasing his power and self-awareness. And these tools that he has put in place help others to achieve the same. We're going to be talking to Karim right now. Karim, welcome to SOS. I am so delighted to have you here.
I'm so happy myself, Jennifer. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to talk a little bit about your culture and how your home life affected you.
I think if I were to, rewind the story of my life a little, go right back into my childhood, I was a very timid child, extremely timid. As I look back at it, I would say that some of that may have had to do with my challenges from past lives too. That's why I was born in a family like that, where people around me were sort of intimidating. When I would be out there, talking to boys my age or, older than me, I would kind of be a little challenged, and sometimes they would hit me and I wouldn't hit them back. I was just not the kind of person who would hit another person, guy or girl, whatsoever. So, at home, I feel challenged because I did not have a say in how to express my feelings or thoughts, and sort of just be a plaything for how to be treated by my elders. So it was very the childhood sort of gave me the impression that a good boy is just one who listens to his elders, never argues with them, never talks back to them. All of these sort of were bad things to do. And I was always concerned about doing the right thing. So to me, doing the right thing meant espousing the values that were given to me by my elders, even though now I realize it was pretty much intimidation and manipulation. But that's how I was scripted at that time.
Well, that's not unlike a lot of us who grew up in dysfunctional families here in Western culture. So, but an extended family is very different. I mean, how many generations were living in your household?
It was just my parents, me and my sister and my grandparents.
Okay.
So just one generation back.
Okay.
Two basically.
Okay. Now you stepped into healing because you wanted an easier path for transformation. How did that transpire?
Yeah, I was, from a very early age, I was into meditation. My parents were kind of ill informed, so they kind of put me off the path because I was just getting too deep into it. Maybe they made the right decision. I don't question any of that at this point because I've already made it. But they did not want me to go very deep into spirituality. Now, however, when I grew up, basically it changed. So as I was trying to move on to a life where I would not have to deal with so much trauma and suffering, I ended up, creating some very challenging circumstances for myself initially, because I went to Canada when I was 18. Then I came back to Pakistan at the age of 24. After that, I kind of had a challenging time with people back home because it was just I went to Canada, got accustomed to that culture, then came back and I had a difficult time to kind of get used to everything, But long story made short, what ended up happening is I had an interest in spirituality. I had an interest in meditation, and I wanted to dig into it. So I finally found a company. It was Learning Strategies Corporation, and I began to experiment with their tools. The problem with that technology was that I wanted to have a lot of different skills. They offered all of them, but they offered them in separate CDs. There would be a CD for thinking, there would be a CD for creativity, there would be a CD for trauma resolution, all the different aspects of life. They were kind of all scattered, and I would want it all. And I would go from CD. That became a full-time job along with the other full-time job I had. I was working from home, so I would just experiment with these tools. And I knew that there had to be an easier way. Somehow, can we experience all these skills without the time investment, without the investment of energy? Because I had to literally clear my mind to get into the zone and then use the CD to get me the results. I wanted to make all of that easier, effortless, so that I would be able to get the results without the time investment, without the investment of energy. So as I began to dig deeper and deeper into that, I finally was able to make that possible with the use of codes, which is the work I do now. So, we can talk more about codes, but
I want to ask you, okay, so what is a code and what can it do? So let's look at first, what is the code?
Yeah, a code is more or less, you can say, an umbrella or a bucket, if you will, for energies. So imagine that you read a code and all of a sudden you experience this rainfall of energy. So just like you take a phone, you take a phone, you dial a number on the phone, and you connect with the frequency of that person. When you read a code, you're connecting with certain frequencies. So the reason I said it's an umbrella or bucket is because you could put a whole bunch of frequencies in a code. The dilemma, the challenge I had was that there were so many things I wanted to do, and I needed to do everything individually.
So can we specifically talk about one code? Let's take weight loss, because I think most of us have got a little weight to lose. So
I have.
let's look at that. I've been eating a lot of cookies lately. So how would working with, if somebody has a weight issue, they want to lose 10, 20, 50 pounds. How does the code work?
Yeah, usually people who have weight challenges have them chronically, So
Oh,
I'm sorry, we lost you. Okay, so usually people have issues, they have them chronically, they have struggled with weight for some time, and usually the reason they have struggled, they understand the reason their own way. I'll tell you what the real problem is. As your body changes, Jennifer, and everybody who's listening, as your body changes, and you put on fat, your energy changes. So we talk about a fat body. There's something called a fat soul, a fat person. Fat actually accumulates in energy form on the actual person. You feel heavier. The body is heavy, yes, but you feel heavier in your energy.
It's more dense, maybe kind of a laden feeling.
It slows you down.
Yes.
Yeah, basically, if you are overweight on some level, it's slowing you down energetically. It's like you may become you may lose conscious awareness of it, but it's slowing you down on the energy level. So it's like a weight on your energy, and it's something you're just accumulating on top of all the energy that you are.
So would you say that you're literally kind of dragging like a ball and chain with you, behind you?
Well, there are people out there who are quite obese, and they are functional, and they're actually quite functional, and they're doing well in their work. So we can't make a generalization that if you have a weight problem, then you can't do anything. That's not, you can't function, or that's not the truth.
That's not what I mean. I'm not saying that people cannot function, but what I'm asking is, you said that it lowers your vibration. I was likening it to kind of dragging something with you.
I think it impacts you in two ways very specifically. One, it tends to destroy your morale.
Okay, that's
so in general, if when you lose weight, you have more energy to do things. It releases energy to do what you have to do or want to do. If you are overweight, it sort of demoralizes you on the energy level.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's one problem. The other problem is that it makes you feel unattractive. Now you may not see yourself in the mirror all the time. You may not be in front of people all the time, but that sort of feeling unattractive tends to lower your sense of esteem, your sense of self-worth.
Well, yeah, every time you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, I'm fat.
And even when you don't, see, this is the problem. Even when you don't, the vibration is there.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So you are, you're living in that energy. It's almost like this. Just the fact that you can't see it. Let's suppose a person's overweight, they are on the bed and they don't look at the mirror at all. Does that mean the energetic problem resulting from excess fat is gone? No, it's not gone. It's there. So it slows you down, and you may not have conscious awareness of it. You may think I'm all right, but it's slowing you down. It's demoralizing you, and it lowers your sense of self-worth. It's always, if you had to do certain things that require high self-worth, you would be a whole lot more, daring to go for those things if you had less weight on you.
Okay, so let's look at the bright side of this.
Yeah.
So let's say that I want to lose 20 pounds and I get the weight loss code. What's it going to do for me? Is it going to help my self-esteem as well as help me lose weight?
Yes, and it will even change the way you look. So yeah, because the changes from the weight loss code are really from the inside out. You start losing.
We lost you there for a second. You froze. So Karim will be back with us in just a moment.
Kind of lost each other.
Yeah.
Oh, did we lose you? Well, maybe let's lost me. Okay. Yeah. So what I was saying is, when you use the weight loss code, it releases this burden on your soul and on your body from the inside out. So start feeling lighter. You start looking sort of even though not much has shifted on the scale, but that burden that I've been talking about, that burden starts going away immediately. So,
Okay.
so
So
usually,
your energy will lighten up then.
absolutely,
Okay.
that's the immediate shift that people
Okay.
start feeling. They feel lighter,
Okay.
and as
All
they
right.
feel lighter, they have more energy.
So let's talk about, you've got how many different codes do you have that you could use for people?
Well, we have the weight loss code, we have the soulmate code. Yeah, we have a code to improve health and wellness. We have several codes to improve health and wellness. We have
The finance code, right?
financial success. We have the somebody who has lost their passion in life and they want to have more focus, more clarity, more productivity. That's one area I can help people with. And
What about intuition?
yeah, I have codes to help people develop healing abilities. So with those codes, you can actually send healing to other people and have better psychic intuition, develop your third eye, become more sensitive to energy with the Claire code that you have been using.
Okay.
Yeah. So those.
What about somebody that isn't fully awakened and they want to awaken and speed up the process? What would you do for them?
Well, the first thing I would ask a person who wants to awaken is, um, what makes you think that you're not awake? And I know that that's kind of a
No, that's a good
that doesn't
question.
make any sense because the person who is not awake, they're like, why, what makes me think I'm not awake? So usually that's where the problem is. You see, when a person says, this is why I feel I'm not awake, I'm making too many mistakes in life, or I encounter, I go from the same relationship, I go through the same relationship again and again. I seem to be blind to. So we need to define what it means to be not awake. The way I define it is, you are blinded to certain aspects of yourself, and as a result, they are tending you to be dysfunctional in certain areas of your life. So, is there such a code as a spiritual awakening code? Well, I would rather say no. I would not do that. I would say, which area of your life do you want to awaken?
Oh,
We
that's a
begin
good
from
one.
there.
I
Yeah,
like
we
that.
begin there. So
Okay.
something that is really a pain point, we begin there. And
Okay.
usually as you do that, you begin to see the very roots of their karmic challenges. And as you begin to unravel that story for them and for yourself, you begin to realize, oh, that's what they mean by not awakened. People do not necessarily understand if they're saying, I'm not awake. They need to pinpoint what they are challenged with.
I need to share our phone-in numbers in case anybody wants to call in. There's two numbers, 888-627-6008 and 323-744-4831. And we are going to be taking callers if you have a question for Karim that you'd like to ask. Karim, I want to rewind. Now, you've written a couple of books. Let's talk about your vision and reality. Why did you write that book?
Jennifer, the reason I was very, very intrigued with the nature of adversity is because I had experienced too much.
So is this book about adversity?
It is about adversity. It's about breaking free of adversity and being able to chart your own course when you're struck with an event or a situation that you did not want.
All right, so let's talk about what could adversity be? Could it be cancer?
It could be cancer. It could be something you were looking forward to achieve and it didn't happen. Something, either slowed it down or you got rejected, or
relationship issues.
It could be a relationship breakup. It could be a loss of a job. It could be, anything. I use the term adversity quite loosely. I use it to mean energy that you did not want.
Okay.
Stuff, yeah. It's like somebody said something mean to you. That I just call it adversity, for the lack of a better word. Okay. Because at the end of the day, the book talks about that problem, that it's not what happened. It's the communication you create in your mind in response to it that stops you. So the book actually takes you through like a systematic series of energetic protocols to break free of what initially started in your mind toward what you want. So it's like, really, if I had to summarize the book, it's about, you start with what you don't want and you turn into what you do want. That's basically what the book is about. So you start with any energy that is troubling you, and you just kind of read. Even if you read the book cover to cover, it will shift your energy toward what you want. You'll get some level of relief, even just as you read through the ideas, and you can think about them and you can apply them. But really, if you just read through the entire book, it will create a shift in energy.
So you talk about in your book about reality.
Yeah.
Let's look at reality. Now, your reality may be different than my reality, and Sarah's reality may be different than Star's reality. So what is reality?
Yeah, reality is also like a loose term for me, and I think I have kind of used it loosely in the book.
Can I stop you for 1 second? So I hear that reality doesn't exist. Is that true?
Not without the observer. Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, that means that there is no universe without you. Universe is moving the way it's moving because you're thinking the way you're thinking.
So
you're part of the package of reality.
Because we are thinking a certain thing.
Yeah.
We're creating a version of our own, like, reality, correct?
As you're thinking, you are forming vibrations within you, which are setting up forces of attraction from the universe toward you. So what I'm saying is that if we removed you from the entire equation, the universe is not the same anymore. The universe, there's no such thing as all this out there and me. No. By virtue of you thinking what you're thinking, is the stuff moving the way it's moving. Everybody is actually one energy, except they're all thinking in other separate ways, which in cumulatively is creating the experience we call the existence.
So let's talk about victim energy, victimhood, and believing that the world is a crappy place, and my life
is a crappy place.
It sure can be.
But you can create a heaven on it.
Heaven
on it.
So let's talk about that. So there's a lot of things that are happening on our planet right now that many of us don't like. And so how can we change this version of reality and change the channel and make it something magnificent that we all can enjoy?
Yeah, so let's go back to that thing called adversity, right? All of this stuff is adversity. It's stuff we don't want. And by virtue of us being in that situation, what ends up happening is that certain thoughts are created in our mind, right? As we create those thoughts, we end up, creating certain results. If we want to break free of this flow of the world, so to speak, our job really is to set an intention where we are not impacted by it. You see, this is the other thing. People are really trying to change what's outside, and that's very unnecessary. What we really want to
change
what's outside.
Outside, you mean?
Yeah, the outside world is the outside world. We're trying to change it. What we really want to change is how it's impacting us.
Okay. And how do we do that?
Well, the way you do that is you first learn to discern exactly how it's impacting you. So self-awareness, you begin with self-awareness. You examine your thinking. So in meditation, all the work I do with the codes, and it helps you sort of drill backward. So it's almost like people are living, as if here, and the codes try to remove one layer, second layer, third layer, fourth, until you're able to touch the core of who you are.
So let's talk about somebody that's got a let's just say a cheating spouse.
Mm-hmm.
So how
I had one. I know what it's like.
I have had two.
Yeah.
So we could maybe want to open up all the wine now. so how do we change? Is it the changing the perception of it? It's not like ignoring the fact that the spouse cheated, but is it looking at it, what did I have to do with it, or should I blame myself? How do we look at it differently?
Well, the very first thing, something that you pointed out, and I want to second that. Never, like, if you want to be awake, never be in denial. It's the total opposite of being awake. If you're in denial about reality and you just want to sugarcoat it, that's anything but spirituality. So it's like half the time people are saying, "Oh, look at things positively," and they're dodging this thing called reality. It's like, no, first acknowledge and accept what has happened. You can never be awake if you're blind, or if you're blinding yourself or telling yourself lies.
So we're talking about awareness here, right?
Yeah.
So be aware of our personal responsibility, be aware of what we did to create it, perhaps.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we may not have had anything to do with it. Like I had that situation where I did not necessarily, but I was like, it's almost like if I were to recall my experience, the person is asking me if I can just do it, if I can just go and sleep with this person, and I'm like, what do I do here? Do I say no because I'm weak enough to not embrace or accept how that will affect me? Or do I say, no, you should not do it because it's wrong? I had a challenge with my own values here. Like, what am I supposed to do? Be a strong person and just say, it doesn't affect me. So I was in denial about my own feelings. Yeah, I was in denial about how it would affect me. And maybe I wanted to experience it to see how it would impact me. So if she did it, and I did experience it, and it kind of damaged me. But what I had to learn from that is, if I wanted a different outcome in that situation, what would I do? I think I would still let it happen. I think it woke me up to embrace, the reality of who I was dealing with. Now, that may not be the case with everybody, but I think in a situation where people are sort of trying to discern better. So I think that's one of the challenges that happen when a spouse cheats on their spouse. It's something that you need to cut through in terms of what led you to sort of participate in the experience, because participation is how it happens. If the spouse cheats, it may be passive participation, not active participation. But what I mean to say is that, usually if you did not know that they were doing this and you came to learn about it in hindsight, I think you are pretty behind your spouse. So they're pretty much acting up on you.
What do you mean by that?
Well, they're acting up on you and you're not aware of it. So you're totally blind to who they are. So this is a good wake-up call, and you should basically make some decisions about whether you want to continue. I think the problem with people that happens is that they first go through this process of feeling betrayed and resentful and angry, and it's like all this roller coaster of emotions. Not let them see the fact that it could just be that gift you're looking for, and the reason it could be that gift you're looking for is because it helps you go past who you were.
Okay, so we're talking about finding the silver lining in every situation, even in the crapshoot.
Yeah, because you see, the silver lining usually is in the form of self-awareness. It begins there. So, whenever we hit with adversity or anything bad, the first thing we need to do is look inside for how we have created that reality. Now, that does not mean that we are to be blamed for it or we should be guilty about it. That means more likely the case really is that we were blinded to something that we sort of ignored, and then it hit us like this. So
what about could we have created it because we have a fear that we're going to be cheated on?
Well, you could have fear, and that's why you choose to believe in some fantasy reality and not the true reality. You see, so it's like even if it's happening, you sort of want to believe that it won't happen because you're afraid of confronting the situation if it did happen. If you have a fear of being cheated upon, the way that fear would generally manifest is you would not confront,
Well,
the
that was not the case in my situation.
uh,
I as soon as I discovered it, I brought it up and talked about it. But
but did you have a fear of being cheated upon? I think in your case, Jennifer, it might just be a lack of discernment in how you saw the person.
Well, I'm laughing about this because
Yeah.
my mother, gotta love our moms. My mom said to me, "Well, that's an experience you've never had before." So maybe I needed to have that experience so that I could then have more compassion for people that, when I'm working with them, overcoming trauma.
Yes, and what I would suggest is that, the thing that you want to look at in terms of your participation in it, Jennifer, or anybody in your situation.
I didn't participate in the cheating.
You did not participate in the cheating, but you participated in being blind to it. So usually what I'm trying to say is that, the universe never presents you with a reality just like that. There are always yellow alerts before there are red alerts. So, this is part of the work I do with people. I try to help them not make mistakes and live a life on a higher vibration by being able to sense oncoming dangers better.
Okay, so let's talk about, you have a snare code, which having a narcissistic mother and I talk about narcissism and how if we've had a narcissistic mother, we could be blind to scam artists and being scammed. And so let's talk about the snare code. How does it work?
I think snare code is part of a whole series of codes that help you kind of break through situations that seem a certain way, but they really aren't that way. So usually and this is not anything untied to the idea of adversity that we're talking about, because the book Vision Reality talks about how to change the energy to what you want. But this is the problem with how, reality or adversity presents itself. The way it presents itself is often a deception. So a deception. We feel like we have failed. We got rejected, or we broke up with our partner. It just feels very depressing, very bad.
Okay.
Very, challenging and it's a deception. That's not the truth of the situation. But this emotional ride that we take, going through all these stages of grief and anger, resentment, betrayal, yes, they are all necessary because they are the milestones you need to complete before the truth of the situation can become evident. So when you talked about the snare code, there's another code called the fraud debunker. The psychic fraud debunker.
Okay.
So it's almost like the code is based on the idea that what is presenting itself is not really what it says it is. You can look at a person. So when you activate that fraud debunker code for a person, it kind of takes them into a spin about what reality is. Because you're looking at the same person like, have I met this person? Yes, I've met this person. I see something else now. So it's usually, stuff about people and situations that we miss because of the way we're programmed.
Okay, so let's talk about the soulmate code, because I think this is very exciting because the soulmate code does a lot of things for somebody, correct? So can you shed some light on what the soulmate code does?
The soulmate code, I would say, is the code that I would give anybody who is blinded in romance and love. So usually if they have made mistakes with romantic partners, they've chosen the wrong partner, they keep going through the same relationship again and again, or they just,
okay, so in other words, so let's just say that you keep marrying narcissists, or you keep attracting people who cheat on you. Different face, but same relationship all over again.
And
Okay.
and that's what I've been talking about, that like I've been putting my finger on it. It's your participation in the game that creates that reality. So if I go and went back to my experience with the cheating, my wife cheated on me or what, that ex-wife now, that experience had a lot to do with me not being able to discern the kind of person she is. Now, why is that? Because I am blinded to who I am.
Ah,
Yeah. So I have accepted a false self as my true identity. And as a result of that, everything in my life is dictated by the paradigm of that false self. That's how I see the world. That's how I process everything. And that's how I will, see her. So if she's going to say, "Oh, can I sleep with?" I'm thrown into some kind of a bind. I'm not caught up with the reality that, oh, this is clear information. I need to move on. I did not do that. I did not do that. I said, let's do what you have to do and just let me know if you did it or not.
so this is what leads to suffering. So we may decide to hang on to the relationship when it's taken a turn for something we really don't want, but we love that person, and maybe they could be abusive. It doesn't have to be cheating, right?
Let me just stop you right there. We love that person,
Yeah.
because we do not know ourselves. End of discussion. If we knew who we truly are, there would be no love, no indifference, just a neutral feeling, no attraction. We're attracted to what we are. So I attracted a psychopath into my life.
So does that mean that you're a psychopath?
I'm a food for psychopath. I'm food for psychopaths.
Okay.
I attract what I am. Yeah.
Me.
See, this is where people get confused. So you attract what you are. Psychopaths attracting psychopaths. No, it's not that black and white. The way you attract is you attract what's inside you. It's like a polar equivalent. Like if I'm food for psychopaths, I will attract psychopaths.
So for me, in my case, because I'm an empath,
Yes.
I tend to attract narcissists.
Well, empath is nothing wrong, but blind is a lot wrong. Right? If you're blinded to narcissism because of past upbringing,
Yes,
yeah,
but the blinders are coming off.
universe is going to send you exactly what you need to wake up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's what it is. And that's the kind of person we are attracted to. That's the kind of person we feel love for. And the people who could truly deserve us would elude us, elude us completely, because that's not the person we are yet. And the soulmate code does exactly that. It brings out who you truly are. So it vaporizes the false self. And that's like a very cathartic process. You've gone through it and you see how challenging it could have been. But basically it clears all those blinders to which you see yourself, which is where your focus completely shifts. So you may want a mediocre person, and then you attract all the challenges with that mediocre person. But now with the soulmate code, you somehow like give it a complete break, and you begin to develop exploration. You go through a journey of exploration about who you are. You begin there. We're always like, everybody's trying to find their partner. Well, it's like, yes, you can find a partner and you can be abused by that partner, and then you leave that partner, and then you may do it again.
Well,
Maybe
that's
it's time
like
to stop right now.
what Gandhi said is, be the love you wish to find. And so when we work on ourselves and improve who we are, becoming more in love with who we are, then we attract someone who loves themselves as well.
Jennifer, who are we?
Who are we?
When we say in love with who we are, we need to discover who we are before we can love that person.
Oh, absolutely.
So the problem is, the reason we can discover is because we are blinded by these psychopaths and narcissists, and that blindness attracts them to us. So what the soulmate code does is brings down these blinders through which we see the world. We don't even know ourselves. Loving ourselves is a very distant path.
Oh no, I understand that. That's
so first we need to become very, very aware of who we truly are versus what people have made us into.
Yeah,
and then we can even consider if we understand the meaning of love.
They need
I think
to
people are jumping the gun.
Date themselves, right? So
well, it's not even hate themselves, just
no, not hate, date. We have to date ourselves.
Yeah, and what I'm saying is that people keep talking about love and bliss and all, And these are all nice and positive and very, very cute ideas, except the problem with these ideas is that it doesn't acknowledge reality. These ideas are principles. These are the laws of the universe. However, you can only accept and understand the laws of the universe if you are in full acceptance of the reality of the world. The world is full of toxic people, difficult people, horrible people, very challenging people, and you need to work through that. That's the energy people are dealing with every single day, and they're trying to be positive. Well, first, let's not be positive. Let's be real. Let's be real. Let's wake up to the full horror of what you're dealing with, and then you can also decide if love is something you even understand, and then you can choose to understand it. So it's like a real. The problem with the self improvement where it's going is it's trying to dodge us into this fantasized reality when what we're dealing with on a daily basis is a pure horror show. So and it's not a good idea to say this is all positive and then this is the positive in it. Well, first let's see the reality in it. Let's fully acknowledge without denial what's happening, and then we can upgrade its vibration so that it's what we want. So what Gandhi did, for example, is a good example. Because he was not in denial about where things are. He traveled through India, and he saw how everything was working, how bad things were, and then he started awakening the masses. He did not just shoot in the air. So this is what we need to do. We want to go on the path of awakening with the full realization of exactly what we're dealing with, and then gradually raise its vibration to one of love, bliss, and spirituality. But first, we need to be very, very in tune with where we are, because this is the problem. If we are not fully caught up with the experience we are having, and we just start sugarcoat it, we go into denial. And that denial is going to bring on more mistakes and more narcissists and more psychopaths, because we keep attracting what we are. You see that?
I do, which leads me to, okay, so how can we move out of denial?
Well, the way we move out of denial is, I think there is one way to move out of denial right away, is stop lying to yourself about the situation.
Well, I think that the truth, though, is that most people don't recognize that they are lying to themselves.
Yeah, and usually, I think the challenge with not being able to recognize that is because they're being scripted by other people. Let's say something bad happens, Jennifer. Usually what ends up happening is people telling us, oh, it's okay, you'll be okay, you'll be all right. Well, hold on a second. I'm not all right. And I need to process that I'm not all right. And let me stay there before you're trying to dodge my emotions to go into a realm where I'm not yet. So it's like if I broke up with my spouse, for example, I need to stay there. I cannot start now thinking that, okay, let me have another relationship. Well, no.
Oh, you have to heal from where you're at.
And I have to not, before I can even heal, I need to accept on a very deep level what I am going through. So I think it's about really not slowing down, but backing up completely. People in general, what ends up happening is they experience, some challenge or some situation, and then, they go out on their job, and then they're starting to focus on that and drown the emotion. They don't drown that emotion in the midst of other realities. No. If you are going to go into meditation and you're going to basically dig, then you're going to be confronted with that emotion again and again and again. Usually what ends up happening for people is that they do not do that. They start talking to other people, they start discussing, and they start doing their work, and they just jump into things so fast that the core emotion that they were experiencing, they kind of go way past that.
Well, they stuff it. I mean, we stuff emotions with food, with alcohol, with medications, and a lot of things, just suppress the emotion. So many people don't know how to move through.
And that's because they don't, I think they don't have a way to kind of slow it down, where they are able to experience the emotion without suffering from it. I think that's where I try to help people, where I give them a way to experience what they're experiencing without suffering with it.
Okay.
As a result, you can break free of it.
if somebody comes to you and they go, well, you've got, 200 codes here, where do I begin?
Well, I don't have 200 codes.
Well, however many you have, you have a lot of codes.
I would, the first thing I would ask them is, how happy are you with your life?
Okay.
And if there's something that makes you unhappy, what is it? So I begin with their pain. It's not a good idea to just, like, I wrote a book on the codes, and what it talks about is, this technology is not just to be like, let me see how it feels. That's not what this technology is. You want to have very clear reference point from which to measure what change means to you. So, if the person is not very clear about that, they need to develop that clarity, and I can help them through that.
Okay.
I can help them develop the clarity of what hurts them the most, what challenges them the most, and then we begin there.
So would you say that a code is kind of like the software for the individual, helps them to operate at a higher level?
I think it's beyond that. We Jennifer, we were talking about this concept of software and hardware.
Yes.
So hardware is how your higher self works, how it focuses the energy of the individual. So the code actually goes to that level. It not only reprograms your mind to perceive differently, it actually reprograms your mind to the point where the energy of the higher self is influenced by the code. So the hardware of the person is also moved by the code. And sometimes what ends up happening is, everybody's different. People have the idea that a higher self is perfect. It's not perfect. It's evolving. It's much higher than who you are, but it is evolving. It has its own journey, and you're on that journey.
Well, that's why we incarnate, right? Is so that we will continue to evolve.
Yeah, and that's why everybody's not an Einstein, or everybody's not a Michael Jordan. Everybody has a different focus and a different gift. That's because the underlying hardware of that person is different. Everybody has a different hardware. As a result, we have different interests, we have different gifts, we have different ways of communicating and interacting with other people. Everybody's different for the reason that the hardware is different. The software itself could be a series of ideas and programs that you can install with a CD or what, but to the degree that your hardware is resisting it, you're not going to move forward. So the code kind of breaks that barrier and goes to the energy of the higher self and moves that energy as well, because that's where change, where people are resisting it most, can happen. Even though the higher self is kind of programmed to resist it, but it's not going to keep resisting. It can be influenced with the code. And usually it's when you need to influence the higher self to create change, that's when people can experience a lot of detox effects with the code as well, because you're going to that level of energy to create change in your life. It's worth it, but it has a price.
Right. So let's talk about what are some of the we'll call the side effects of working with the code.
Well, okay. I don't want to talk too much about it negatively without also having a disclaimer about it, that it's really to the degree that a person is challenged with the result that they're seeking to achieve. So imagine that you're here and the goal is here, and this is all you need to do to merge with the goal. Well, you're going to do it easy. It's not going to be such a challenge. But where the goal is like that, like there's, I can't even go beyond, because then people can't see my hands. But if it's that big a gap, and every time you move forward, you're confronting some real horror from your past, basically. Then it's like a bumpy ride. You're just kind of trying to acclimate, and in doing so, sometimes what can happen is the body can have a challenge, because you're going through so much transformation so fast that your mind could just sort of I think the best way to deal with a detox is to just sit back and let it happen. I think the real problem that people go through is when they're trying to do other things at the same time. If they weren't doing that, I think they would be able to sit still and let that kind of work through their mind however it needs to work through. It's when you're trying to do that and do other things at the same time that it's like an uphill ride.
Well, the way our Western culture works is people continue to just push on through.
Yes.
And we've had solar flares on the planet coming from the sun, of course. uh, and all kinds of other things that affect us. And there was, I guess it was maybe a week or so ago, and I know that several people were going through this kind of, I won't say dark night of the soul, but where they just kind of, I did it for 3 days. I just kind of was quiet. I rested. I stayed on my couch and didn't do too much, and then kind of came out of it for the better. So
Yeah.
that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
body to restore itself.
That would ease the side effects significantly, because that's what I do. I've gone through a lot of change with the codes myself, and it's usually those moments I just take a break. I don't keep pushing through, because if I try to do that, then I'm setting myself up for failure, and then I would blame the codes. But it's not really the codes. It's just a matter of letting the change pass through your energy until it's completed.
Can we talk about, so we talked about the soulmate code. You have a health and wellness code, correct?
Yes.
And what does that do?
Well, it is designed to help people who have sicknesses, illnesses, or chronic, or
Like diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis.
yeah.
So let's talk about the success that you've had, because I know you've had some great success with that that code.
Yeah, it's the way this code works is it it's almost like this. Basically, here's how I see a sick body, and that's where the code is, like the health code. You do not, this is not an elevator like woof, okay, I become healthy now. No, it's something that you sort of go
Gradually.
gradually, step by step by step by step. So there's several codes in that realm. One of the codes is to basically it's a wellness code. It's something that creates a healthy vibration in the body, so that anything that bespeaks of illness or disease, or it is just sort of heal and ramp up with the vibration of health. Um, Usually that ends up helping people experience pain relief very, very, very immediately. Their underlying function may not be restored on the same day, but the pain can start going away more rapidly. So people who are in a lot of pain, if they use that code, then they can experience relief very much faster than before all the function is revived. So then there's a code for reviving function. So let's say, for example, somebody is losing. I've been able to heal scars on my skin that have basically been there for many, many years with that code. So it's that code is like, one way to say this is an anti-aging code, but it really revives the body's functions. Again, this is not something that will happen overnight. It's something that happens slowly. I had a tooth. I did not, go through a root canal surgery. It was pretty much, I could not eat with it. The moment I would eat with it, I would just completely, freak out in pain. I began healing on that tooth for several months, and now I can eat with it. I cannot eat something very hard with it, but I can eat with it. So if I'm able, before I could not eat at all. So, what I'm saying is that, there are results, but there's improvement. There's a woman who, she's my aunt, and she had a lot of pain. Her sciatic nerve, sciatic nerve is blocked. It happened due to something. I don't know what the cause was, but she was in extreme pain.
Probably.
And she could not walk. She could barely move, and her toes would be swollen, and there would be extreme pain in her legs. So she has started to walk more. Her pain is a whole lot better. She's able to sleep at night. She could not sleep before. So what I'm saying is that, as I explained to you last time, Jennifer, this is not a Jesus Christ miracle healing. It's something that goes gradual. It's a gradual thing that kind of keeps building upon each one every single day.
Can we let's talk about the gentleman that had diabetes. Now, how long was he using the code? Was it 6 months?
Yeah, 6 months.
And then he moved to a pre-diabetic
pre-diabetes, yes. Yeah. So it took like 6 months before that that change took place, and some medications that he was taking were removed. Yeah, so it's like
That's
that. Yeah, that's what you can expect. You can
okay.
expect a gradual improvement of health and wellness
Yeah.
in response to the
But
code.
I like the way you say that it's not a Jesus healing proof you're
Yeah,
healed. It
yeah,
takes a little time. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
So if somebody is going through that type of a healing with the code, do you find, do they just naturally sort of start steering away from the chocolate pudding and the ice cream and start eating more healthy? Is that part of what happens?
Well, let's talk. So we're talking about weight loss now. The weight loss is really a compendium of two sets of codes. That's what I would say. One is where you sort of release this energy of fat from the inside out, as I talked about it, and the other is programming of behavior. So when I would help somebody with their weight loss, I would ask them what habits are they challenged with. Then I would reprogram those habits for them, because you could look the weight loss code, the main weight loss code. The way it works is it actually releases the fat from the inside out, and your body also starts releasing fat.
Right.
The body also starts doing that. Except if you're going to, let's say, going to lose, let's say, half a pound in a day in response to that weight loss code, and you had pizza, you sabotaged it, right? So obviously your behavior has to be in alignment. So it works in two directions. It first releases this excess fat energy from the energy system, from the body, and I also reprogram the behaviors people are experiencing, as well as the obstacles that are in their way. So for example, sometimes the family members are not cooperative.
Right.
There are all kinds of things. Weight loss is not one code. It's like a series of situations that you have to overcome before you can keep making forward progress to your weight goal. So you need to have you need to heal all levels of your behavior that's challenged because of your life situation. So sometimes the life situation evolves. I heal it, and then I have to work with them again to heal the next level of it. If the life situation evolves and they have developed new problems. So weight is always in response to how your life is. Your life becomes more challenging, then you need a boost in your weight loss efforts, and you need a new level of healing. So it's an evolving code, Jennifer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, as we're evolving, so then the code evolves as well.
Yeah.
Right. And we are almost at the top of the hour. So can you just share a couple of the codes that, like, if somebody was to come to you with, maybe they've had trauma, and a lot of people have, what would you recommend?
Well, if a person has had trauma, it's most likely in response to having been blinded to the situation that created trauma for them. So,
Wait, no, let's just say they had trauma in their childhood. So trauma in your childhood has nothing to do with being blinded to it. It has to do with your family.
And at the end of the day, you can heal it to the degree that you awaken from that trauma, right? So you need to, okay, yeah. It's stuff that happens to us in our childhood. We may end up thinking that we have no say in it. But then we have these awakened children, like, I don't know, we have heard their names, and they are awake as children, Jennifer. How would you describe them? So obviously it's possible to have awareness in childhood. Not everybody has it, very few people have. But we cannot dismiss the idea that personal responsibility is out when we are children. So the only way, the reason I say personal responsibility is because responsibility is response ability, able to respond. And usually what ends up happening is because we are so scripted from our past lives that we are naive and blinded. Our family simply is a layer upon our past lives. They treat us and that's what people sort of don't evolve as they reincarnate. They go through the same challenges again and again. So what I'm saying is, if you want to reverse that, we're interested in reversing that. We're interested in them feeling empowered. So if you want to feel empowered, you need to, it doesn't matter whether you're a child or you're an adult, you need to go back to who you were that created that trauma for you to begin with. Because at the end of the day, this is how I see it. There's a situation and there's your experience of the situation. Your experience of the situation is something you create, whether you're a child or an adult.
Right. That's the story that we
So you need to heal that story so it's an empowering story. It's a story of truth. One of the codes is the story of truth. So it needs to be the story of truth. Even as you're a child, that if you feel like I'm a child, I'm helpless. All of that is a story. All of that is a thought. All of that is something that reinforces the idea that you were a victim of that abuse. And you can choose to break free of that idea. And that will release the power that you want. You see? So at the end of the day, it's how we relate to the experience that it continues to have an impact on us even to this day. It's how we relate to the experience. That
Right.
story, that idea, that whatever that processing is what we need to break free of. Then we can relate differently and recreate the past. And as a result, the trauma is gone.
Right. Like spiritual reparenting.
Yeah.
Karim, how can people get in touch with you? What is the best way for them to reach you?
It's email, my email address. It's my personal email address. They can write to me. It's Karim, K-A-R, I'll spell it out. K as in kangaroo, A as in apple, R as in rabbit, I as in India, M as in Mary, _ Hermani, H as in Henry, E as in Elizabeth, M as in Mary, A as in apple, N as in Nancy, I as in India, at outlook.com.
Okay. So I'm going to go over that again. Hang
Yeah.
on one second. I got to
Mhm.
find it. I have it written down here somewhere. Okay. So KARIM _ HEMANI at outlook.com. Okay, so we have a segment at the end of each show. It's all bullshit. And you and I have talked about this. We laughed about it a little bit. So what do you think is the biggest bullshit on the planet these days? Let's talk about that. What just in a just a short little way.
I often hear Bob Proctor saying, you're the only problem you'll ever have, and you're the only solution. I think the fact that you're the only problem is the greatest awakening. So we're the bullshit at the end of the day. We create our trauma with the thinking we hold firmly to. It's our assumptions about reality. It's about the other person may not have done something. The situation may not have that. However, our blinders perceive reality in certain ways, and that creates our real experience, our trauma. So a lot of the trauma can be gone. It's all bullshit if we are able to see that we're contributing to it by virtue of the thoughts we think.
The story.
Yeah, the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we create our own reality with the story that we think.
And we can break free of it. And that leads to end of suffering for whoever is desiring that.
Well, then the other aspect of that is that the world is not out to get you, but the universe is here to support you. It's the opposite, right?
Yeah, and we created an affirmation with that, right? What stops me serves me.
Let's say that again.
What stops me serves me.
What stops me
serves me. Yeah. What stops me emboldens me, empowers me. It's your attitude at the end of the day that determines your reality, what you create in life. It's not what happens to you, right? That's what I know. It's not even a belief. I understand that.
So the universe is always supporting us.
If we see that. Yes. And that's, by the way, part of the evolution that the Vision and Reality book takes you through. It helps you see that the universe is supporting you, except if you change your perception, and then you can see it.
Where can people get your books?
It's on Amazon.
Okay.
Amazon, if they are in Canada, they go to amazon.ca, amazon.uk if they're in the United Kingdom. If they are in the US, amazon.com. And if they just put my name there, Karim Hermani.
Vision and Reality.
I think if they put the name of the book, they may not be able to find it. But if they put my name in there, then they will be able to see the books that I have there.
Yeah, I went searching for it. It was a bit of a challenge. So if anybody needs some help, they can also find you on Facebook, right?
Yes, they can. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here. Everyone, thank you so much for for joining us tonight. And Karim, I enjoyed it. And lots of love to everyone. And have a magical rest of your night. Thanks for being here. I'm
Thank
Jennifer
you.
Elizabeth Masters. Mwah. Much love.
I'm going back